And today we are going to learn all about square blunt lines. These first few sections, I feel like this is a quite repetitive haircut once you really get going. But this is one of those key sections where you're really kind of dialing in, like see how all that swirls? So a true one length haircut is at 0 degrees. If I leave my comb in and keep it really parallel to my section, it literally makes it like so much easier to execute that shape. And that's what I mean by like creating something perfect on imperfect head shape, calic, growth pattern. You have to allow for that hair to be able to jump up a little bit. I do that a lot, but when you're precision cutting, I think it's great to go in wet. So now that I have this clean section all the way from the back through to her temple, I'll start in the back where I have a very neat guide. Stand square to my shape, bring it straight down. I'm not pushing it in because it's gonna flick the hair up and change the length. So I'm combing it, standing square while you're in the back. I don't wanna come around the side yet because I wanna pull this back towards me. So it's square from behind. Combing it, grabbing it with my comb. I'm always just letting the ear do whatever it wants to do. Now that I have that shape established, go in at the ear, and I'm gonna really loosen this up, tap above the ear, below the ear, loosen it up a little bit so that I don't get that hole. And at this point, if you feel like, for me, I feel secure enough to where I could go through this whole side and then match the other side to it. I suggest going from side to side, but because my first section was a little bit finer, I am just gonna take one more section down so that I have enough hair here to tell me, okay, this is a solid guide to guide me through to the other side. So at any point when you want to go over and match the other side to this side, you can absolutely do that. There's no one exact way, right? As long as the shape is the shape. So that it has enough, like it's in your comb enough, just kind of helps you comb. So see how there's just a little bit of extra, almost like a little extra length right there from tapping. I'm not mad at it because as soon as that bounces up, boom, you have like a perfect square. So now I am gonna go through the other side, match it to this side, and then I'll work my way through one entire side, and then I'll just match the sectioning as I go. So I take my first small section. The smaller the sections you take, and that like kind of allows you, that say you cut this a little too short, you could just take that next little sliver and correct that little something that you created. It's like, what happens if, what happens if I completely cut a hole first thing right below the ear? And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look from the front angle. And the reason she's not wearing a cape is because I like to see everything. And another great way to check for balance is you actually go in with your hands here and here, draw it down, and you can, even with your eyes closed, you can feel if something's a little bit off, and we're pretty right on. So that's what I'm building here, but now this is the hair that has to go over the rounds of the head. Now that's too much hair to cut, so I'm gonna break it down. But sometimes up here, this whole section might just be a few hairs down here because they might have layers. So now I'm gonna go in with my diagonal forward section. And I feel like we're probably gonna be able to do this just in 1-2 sections. So there's one section, and then yeah, this last section will be just about all I need to do. So if she had a side part, then I would actually put that side part in, cut her hair, and it would be asymmetrical because this side has further to travel. So it would actually be longer on this side than it would be on this side. So you might want to just chip into that and soften that look a little bit so that she can wear it wherever. But it's really important, really, really, really important when you have this kind of a cut to really be picky about their part. You really want to think about all these tiny little details that are going to change your outcome, right? From where you're standing to how you're cutting. And at this last section, because I want wide side of my comb, I'm like saying one thing, doing another thing. But the angle of which I'm cutting this is a little bit shorter in the back, longer in the front, which gives you a really sharp line too. All these little things, these little tips that just change the game for you completely is like kind of the biggest things when it comes to really blunt precision cutting. And I don't know if you've ever heard this put this way before, but it's comb, 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 cut. And the reason they say that is because you're letting the hair like move, 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 but also getting it more and more and more and more perfect. So I'm more concerned, like yes, I'm making it a straight part, but I'm more concerned about like where this hair is falling versus like, is it a super straight line right there? It is a straight line right there, but I'm just more concerned about like the fall of her hair, because that's what's going to be in effect. Because if you cut into them, there's a few times when you're doing some creative work that you're like cutting a bang all the way back in there. What you see, what you expose, what you hide, what you accentuate. I'm accentuating all of this, and she has these cute little lips, right, and a beautiful neck. The stronger your shape is, the longer the haircut's going to last. She's a busy woman, so this is going to be important. But sometimes it's easier to style because it kind of just like pops into shape, you know, as opposed to like styling something into your hair. What I want to do is I want to mix up the textures a bit. So this is super blunt. And remember I said I want to do something blunt but soft. So this is going to allow me to have a completely different texture. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a blunt line with a different tool. Oh, it's like creates this impact and like an effect and a feeling and an emotional pull that you like don't know where it's coming from. But the most important thing to know about the straight razor, or one of the very important things to know about using the straight razor, is that the smaller your motions are, the more blunt the line is. So what I'm doing is I'm actually taking a diagonal section this way and starting in the corners, because I want the corners to be rather sharp. So I'm bringing my fingers below where I want the cutting line to be, and with a very like small little cutting motion, because I want this to be blunt but not like extremely blunt. Standing square to my shape on the side, expose it, like giving myself some room with my fingers, rocking them away from her face. Just keeping your fingers still, really still, and not sliding them down while you're cutting. That's going to be your guide. But yeah, just keeping them stable though is also just going to allow you to move across in a just square way. I'm allowing a little bit of bounce here in her bangs so that it falls more of a blunt line. And because this is kind of following a little bit more forward, I'm letting it fall the way it naturally does, and then coming in through the bottom and cutting. I think it's really cool to like mix up your techniques and textures, like around here with a square this or a triangle that, you know. The blow dry and the finish is something that you want to blow dry it in a way that is really reading true to the way that their hair lives, but also the haircut itself. You don't want to go in, style it, add curl, and then try to like refine it later, or even let someone's natural curl just, I don't know, bully you. So you don't want to create movement in the blow dry and then all of a sudden it looks like you have more to fix than you actually do. And actually there's kind of, I look at it as I almost break it up into 3 different areas. I like to make sure that I have balance on the sides, and then I'll go through and I'll actually kind of like make sure that it all attaches together in the center. So I'm not changing my line, but you can see how much it'll sharpen my line. Right there on the underneath. But on the underneath right there, again, right around the ear, just a few little inconsistencies. So I'm gonna tilt my scissors, cut it slightly shorter. Because once I bring her this way, I will have her tilt her head down, and it is gonna expose a lot, so I don't wanna change it completely because this isn't, I really do want it to remain one length. So it's gonna make the line like appear uneven, or you know what I mean, like have a little bit of, it's gonna look different than if her head was straight up. But this is just gonna ever so slightly expose these little tiny things underneath that I'm just gonna dust up to make it like so sharp. And I know that this shape is square, and plus I don't want, like if I see like 1 or 2 hairs, I can nick at them, but I kind of placed what I wanted to see in there already. Like once you feel like satisfied with the style, you can kind of go in and mess it up a little bit and then see if like, okay, I kind of want to like texturize that or nick that off a little bit or add some fringe or whatever. But I think I'm happy. You feel good?
Yeah, I love it. I like the clean cut.
Super sharp.